think we can call it a bizarre college bowl season. I just got done watching the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
No.
Sponsored by a mayonnaise company that throughout the broadcast, your former Golden Domer, Mike Golick Jr., was the color commentary guy and was trying different foods with mayonnaise, including Oreos dipped in mayonnaise, donuts dipped in mayonnaise.
That sounds about right, though.
Yeah, that's Golick for you.
Have you ever heard him on the air? That sounds about right.
Yeah, and just before we went on the air this afternoon, I saw South Carolina's coach, winning coach, get doused in some watered down Duke's Mayo.
Oh my God, that's effing disgusting.
Might have been the most disgusting thing I've seen. Yeah, it was horrific. But beyond that bizarreness, we have 5 bowl games now that have been canceled by COVID.
Yes.
I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. But I don't remember any games ever being canceled in the history of college football, for any bowl games at least. So that's definitely a strange one. That directly affected my alma mater. Central Michigan University was going to the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl in Tucson. Happy to do so, to take on Boise State, which was kind of an interesting matchup. Boise State, of course, broke one of the non-Power 5 conferences teams to kind of break into the big games. They beat Oklahoma years ago, but I think they've kind of, they're a 7-5 team this year, so they're not the world beaters they were at one point. But it was an interesting matchup. But they were one of the teams that had to basically back out of their bowl appearance because of COVID. So Central Michigan was left without an opponent. Fortunately, it's sponsored by Tony the Tiger. Sun Bowl lost one of their teams. The Miami Hurricanes had to back out, and Washington State was left without an opponent. So my Chippewas were invited and glad to take the money of Tony the Tiger, as they went from, I believe it was a $175,000 deal with the Arizona Bowl, moving up to the Sun Bowl for $2.3 million. So
that's a payday, right?
Yeah, there. A nice little payday for my Chippewas there, as they will now take on a Power 5 conference, Washington State. They might get their asses kicked tomorrow afternoon, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a cool opportunity for the Chips, get more eyeballs in the program, and maybe they'll even surprise some people.
It's kind of funny they play in a later bowl game than Michigan State now.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing. Like, Central is now going to be playing at noon Eastern time, at least, and on New Year's Eve day, just before the college football playoffs start at 3:30 and 7:30, I believe the second game starts. But tonight, on a New Year's 6 bowl, the Peach Bowl, my Michigan State Spartans are playing the day before New Year's Eve, and yet it's still considered a New Year's 6 bowl.
The eve of the eve celebration.
They take on the Pitt Panthers, and that's just another part of the weird bowl season. As they are a New Year's 6. They've earned it, being 10-2, taking on kind of a mediocre opponent in the Pitt Panthers. Similar record. They did win the ACC.
Who cares?
But both teams are missing their best player. Both have opted out of the game. Kenneth Walker III has opted out, and Kenny Pickett has opted out. Of course, I don't blame either of them. With NFL careers, this one game away, just months away from potentially having generational wealth by being drafted into the NFL, you don't want to risk that. I can't begrudge them. I would love to see them play in this game. It would make it that much more interesting. So I'm looking forward to the game, at least, not as much as I would if the top players are actually in it. Fortunately for Michigan State, they did get their top 2 receivers back in the lineup, and their best offensive tackle, This 3 weeks allowed them to heal up. Jalen Naylor and Jared Reed are back to complement the offense for Peyton Thorne. We'll see how they fare. I think the passing attack will be there, and it helps having our best offensive lineman back, who's been out since the end of the Michigan game. But it'll be interesting to see how backup running backs will fill the void for Kenneth Walker III. If it's Elijah Collins that'll step up, or Simmons is his name. I forgot his first name, but we'll see how that plays out. I don't know, how Pittsburgh will fare without their NFL prospect quarterback, Kenny Pickett. They still have their number one receiver, who you and I actually gave the Olympia Award to.
That's right.
For the best receiver in the country, Jordan Addison. So, it depends on who's giving him the ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, will the ball be able to get into his hands is the question mark.
Well, on their side, at least, they have going for them. Michigan State has the worst statistically secondary in the country passing defense. So they should benefit from that, but who knows who's throwing them the ball. That's kind of why I thought Kenny Pickett would want to play in this game, because going against the worst secondary in all of college football seems like a great opportunity for him to showcase his talents to NFL scouts everywhere, but he didn't want to take advantage of that. So, and again, you can't blame him, but that's how it's going to play out. So, what would have been a more interesting matchup, I think, for everybody, and especially this podcast, and we've mentioned it before, and it was rumored that Michigan State may had a chance to go to the Fiesta Bowl to take on your Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I can't imagine how fired up you and I would be for that. The build up to that, I know Spartan Nation would be much more interested in that. But you wonder
if Kenneth Walker III's in the game then too.
I think he would be. I think he definitely would be. I think that's what the Peach Bowl on the eve of New Year's Eve did to his decision. So, but I'm sure you have lots of thoughts about your upcoming matchup in the Fiesta Bowl.
I have a few thoughts. One is you've got two pretty solid defenses going against each other. One a little more grounded than the other in Notre Dame. Notre Dame's not a high risk, high reward defense, where Oklahoma State is exactly that. The question is, Notre Dame's and here's where I think Notre Dame has the advantage. Notre Dame's defense gave up a whopping 23 points over its last 4 games, accumulating to just under 6 points a game is what they allowed. On the flip side of that, Oklahoma State's defense gave 66 points up in its last 4 games. So I think that's a big factor. I think Notre Dame also in the second half of the season, something I had covered a lot here, they got their running game going in the second half of the season, which was a huge problem in the first half of the season. So, you add the trend, you put the trend lines together, and I'd have to say Notre Dame's going to come away with the victory tomorrow. New Year's Day. At noon Central Time.
That's a weird time. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Fiesta Bowl, I always thought got played at night, but it seems like a nighttime. Is that noon local time or noon Central?
I think it's noon Central. I think it's 1 Eastern.
That would be like 11 a.m., 10 or 11 a.m. local time, because that is in Arizona, is it not?
It is in Arizona.
Jesus. Well, that's when they got to play the games to 12, get them on TV.
12 p.m. Central, so it's 11 a.m. 11 a.m. in Arizona. But I think Notre Dame walks away with this one with the riding the mojo and everyone's positivity of Freeman.
Lifted the blanket of the Brian Kelly era.
The dancing,
dark cloud.
The dancing racist with his southern accent.
He's racist now?
Well, I mean, I don't
piling on here, I think.
I know, I'm just kidding. The dancing hypocrite, excuse me, that's better. That's better. I don't. I believe that Notre Dame's going to win this one, 38-17.
Word Hole Media.